Cyclone Cheneso making landfall in Madagascar, with the latest on Cyclone Irene as well on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for January 19th. So the tropics are very much alive since I was last on here with the Tropical Weather Bulletin, and we are code yellow for Cyclone Cheneso making landfall in Madagascar as a Category 1 hurricane equivalent cyclone with winds near 75 miles per hour. Along with that, Cyclone Irene in the South Pacific as well. In the Atlantic, 133 days until hurricane season. We already saw that system in the last few days whilst we were off the air. No areas of interest now though, and hopefully the Atlantic will go back to being quiet for the rest of the year. In the rest of the world, there's Irene on the right hand side and a 60% chance for another system to its west in the Coral Sea will continue to move towards the east or southeast. Irene will continue to move beyond Vanuatu and out towards the open waters of the South Pacific. Across the rest of the ocean there into the Indian Ocean, quite quiet in the eastern section, the Australian region fairly quiet along that west coast, and then we move over to Cheneso, which is already starting to hammer Madagascar with strong winds but particularly heavy rainfall. And that is a big concern leading into this storm event. It's been forecasted for a long time that it will produce very high amounts of rainfall, so we are on high alert for major flooding, and it could be catastrophic in that regard. Let's take a look at some satellite imagery. You might be able to detect some of that rain rate approaching Madagascar there. Getting some light colours in those later frames. Look at those reds really blowing up. That's a bad sign. Across Australia as well, northern Australia, quite a lot of red zones there too, but none of that is from any organised tropical cyclone. Here's a close-up on Cheneso then as it moves towards its landfall. This is the last few frames. It goes up to about 9 p.m. UTC, so it is at least a couple of hours out of date now at the time of publication. So it is getting very close to making its landfall if we were to extrapolate that movement, and it is I think only around 100 miles from the closest town. That was the case earlier today. It's probably quite a bit closer than that now, and already delivering strong winds to the coastline, no doubt about it. Quite a large wind field, particularly on the southern side, is what we're led to believe. We don't have any direct observations to corroborate that right now, but that's probably what's going on inside that storm. Blowing up quite a bit of cloud top convection. Here's an enhanced view from RAM showing the progress of this storm in the last few hours. Extremely high cloud tops actually, into the minus 90s there, those white areas. So that tells us a couple of things. One, that it's probably intensifying still, although it is a little bare on that southern side there. But two, that there's a lot of rainfall in that and moisture quite clearly depicted by those high cloud tops. Not always the case, but usually the case that higher cloud tops correlate to more rainfall. So we are looking at a major rainfall situation, especially for that northern tip of Madagascar there. And here is Cyclone Irene, which has been moving past New Caledonia towards the islands of Vanuatu over the course of today. And you can see its progress now. It looks like it's being sheared to hell really on the western side, and the big dome of convection that it had earlier on has evaporated quite a bit. There's still some of it left, and it's probably still decent for 60 miles per hour, this storm, looking like it's going to be on its way out soon. Also going to be a rainmaker though for some of those islands of Vanuatu. You can see some of them there. It will have passed fairly close to Port Vila not long ago as well, and I think the closest island there is Eromango as it continues to move towards the southeast. New Caledonia looks like they're out of the woods with that one now. Sea surface temperatures around the world on our whistle stop tour. The eastern Pacific first of all, starting from west to east. Temperatures in the deep tropics in the eastern Pacific looking decent, although at higher latitudes not so much. Eastern Pacific only a small pocket of temperatures that are good enough, 26 Celsius, 79 Fahrenheit. The Atlantic is quite similar as well, as you would expect at this time of year. We rarely see any tropical systems form in the Atlantic at this time of year. It's usually of a subtropical nature, as we may have recently seen. North Indian Ocean, you can see those high temperatures there as well. In the lower latitudes, not so much higher up though. And in the Southwest Indian Ocean, where we're more concerned about, look at those temperatures in the Mozambique Channel, 29 degrees Celsius at least, probably pushing 30 or more actually for some of those coastal areas particularly. And in the open waters, 82 there, that's 28 Celsius at least, probably higher in some locations. Eastern Indian Ocean still a little bit on the cool side off the coast of Australia, but further towards the east there along northern Australian coastlines, it's very warm, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. Same in the Coral Sea for some areas. Further south, down to 26 near Queensland, and then decent temperatures still in the South Pacific as well, as you would expect at this time of year. Western Pacific at those lower latitudes, getting up to around 28 Celsius again there still. Even up at Guam, it's 27, 28 at least. And that is above average, as you can see here. Lower anomalies still for the Australian region, which is interesting. Not quite as much as it was earlier on, though. And the South Pacific, very much above average as well. So that's what I would highlight as a potential hotspot. Down towards the Mozambique Channel over there as well on the left-hand side, a little bit above average. And the La Nina effect in the Pacific still continuing to die off slowly. Oceanic heat content looks decent, extending now beyond Fiji and down to Tonga there, some of those blue areas, and right the way across the South Pacific further east towards French Polynesia. The Western Pacific, that ridge of orange zone is still there just south of Guam. That only popped up quite recently, which really has surprised me considering the time of year. We don't usually see anything like that really start to fire up until, well, getting on for May, June really. And these are the computer models then. The GFS throws the current Cyclone Cheneso into Madagascar there at its current intensity, and it does pop out at the other end there. Look at that, the 22nd, 23rd of January. There it is in the Mozambique Channel, making a move towards the west. You may have seen at the very end of that 5-day loop there, another system forming well out to sea on the right-hand side of your screen. So take your pick which one you're more interested in. I think it will be the left-hand side, that one headed for Mozambique for a potential second landfall. Here's what happens with Irene, moving very quickly towards the southeast. The second system behind it tries to become a tropical cyclone. Whether it succeeds or not, it's a close one. Doesn't seem to last for long, but may also buffet New Caledonia with some strong winds again. And then that third system, that small one that GFS has been calling for quite a while actually, a compact system in the Coral Sea that certainly has some rapid intensification potential and could be headed towards the Australian coast. There it is on day 5, but other models haven't picked up on it yet. Here is the rainfall estimates for the next 7 days for Madagascar. This is quite crucial to take a look at some of these areas. Now this it's not our usual imagery because it's not working for the latest model runs. This is actually an old one, but it's still showing you some of those colors really blowing in as we get towards the 22nd, 23rd of January. And all told, I can tell you that the total amount of rainfall we're expecting for some locations there in the northern part of Madagascar could be approaching 900 millimeters from here on in. That's 900 millimeters, 36 inches of rain possible in some locations there, and a very widespread blanket there of 20 inches plus. That is 500 millimeters for very large tracts of the northern coastal region of Madagascar, and even some locations further south there as well. Those pink areas, basically, that's 20 inches plus, and so the potential for flooding and serious issues I would say is very elevated with this storm. It could be stalling for quite a bit as it moves over land. It's an uncertain forecast, and it may still survive at the other end. Let's take a look at the longer range then. This is day 5 to 10. First looking at the Philippine region actually. There may be a new system on its way there. The GFS wants a storm to form. As you can see, moving up towards the northwest, fighting against the elements there and continuing towards an eventual landfall possibly. Doesn't quite get there by the end of day 10. Typical early season kind of system that's fighting against those winds to the north and really slows down in progress as it gets closer to the Philippines and battles, but there it is, looking decent. I don't think other models are on that yet. Here's the 5 to 10 day period in the southwest Indian. Look at that, a new system forming off Madagascar. The Cheneso is still active, moving off Mozambique. There is an extremely large system down there in the Mozambique Channel. Could still be a tropical cyclone by that point, one of the biggest we'll have ever seen if that's actually supported, but that's just a crazy sequence, a Fujiwara effect there, with that other system, a double one actually, with two systems up there. It's chaos really, and very difficult to predict what might happen with all of that, so keep watching closely. And here's the Australian system, becomes a hurricane equivalent storm there for a brief period, moving towards the southwest, makes landfall in Queensland. It's weakening by the time it makes landfall. We'll watch it again in a moment. Here it is, moving towards the southwest. There's hurricane equivalent, and then landfall looks to be around 26th of January in the morning hours along the coast there. Trying to remember my Australian geography. I think it might be near Mackay. I might be wrong on that, but that is what it's showing. Scan the barcode and take a look at the Force 13 merch store, and all of our usual products are there waiting for you, as well as full season and individual storm animations on request, and are still waiting for Hone t-shirt because goodness knows we are still waiting. In the Scilly range, this is day 10 through to 16. This system really starts to get the pull of itself there, but does actually stall again over the Philippines there, and that would be a very bad situation because it would be another big rainfall event for that area if that storm was to stall there, and then eventually it just completely capitulates. So it doesn't last much longer beyond that 10-day period. Other models not really on board with it yet. I know the European model isn't calling for anything yet, so keep watching with interest. Nothing that we've marked at the moment. Also in the super long range, more chaos in the southwest Indian Ocean. I mean, what is there left to say about all of these systems? And look at that Cheneso still going down there and starting to move northwards again along the coast of Mozambique, becoming a remnant low and then moving inland near Beira once again. Incredible. And then two more enormous systems that try to start to form there off the coast out to sea in the Indian Ocean. I don't know, I think this model run is pretty cursed, but certainly the potential to see multiple tropical cyclones in the next couple of weeks. You can join our Discord server, discord.gg/force13, to discuss that crazy setup that we've got right there. And you can also tune into our automated stream, which is running 24/7 coverage on Cheneso and Irene right now. Well then, on January 18th, 1985, I can't say it was less crazy than what the models are proposing, because we had three systems active in the South Pacific. A Category 4 Nigel approaching Fiji, behind it Category 3 Odette, which was approaching New Caledonia, was going to pass to the north, and Storm Eric, which was weakening from its strong peak earlier on and was moving well towards the southeast towards French Polynesia on this day in 1985. Very active South Pacific basin. Well, back to today, and I'm sure we'll have many more updates on these two storms. In the Atlantic, though, in the next... let's try that again. In this coming season, the first name is Arlene. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Adrian. And in the Central Pacific, one day, we might just see Hone. In the Western Pacific, next up on list 5 is Sanvu. In the North Indian Ocean, it's Mocha. 5 storms so far this year, if you're keeping count. And the next storms in the Southern Hemisphere look like this. In the Australian region, it's still Freddy. The Southwest Indian Ocean, Dingani. And in the South Pacific now, it's Judy. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.